Welcome back. Let's turn to our other special story today. An anti-coronavirus drug, drug 2-deoxy-D-glucose or 2DG, was launched today, developed by the Defense Research Development Organization along with Dr. Reddy's laboratory. It's been approved for emergency use. So far, 10,000 of these doses have been released for use, and apparently they can have an impact in reducing your dependence on oxygen during coronavirus. Take a look at this report from Sneha Morjani.
The Drugs Controller General of India has approved the emergency use of the drug 2-deoxy-D-glucose, which is 2DG, as an adjunct therapy in moderate to severe COVID-19 patients. Now, what is 2DG? Here's everything you need to know about this drug. Well, the anti-COVID oral drug has been developed by the DRDO's leading lab, the Institute of Nuclear Medicine and Allied Sciences, in collaboration with Dr. Reddy's labs. The 2DG drug is expected to help hospitalized COVID-19 patients and reduce their supplemental oxygen dependence. How does 2DG control COVID-19 and reduce the dependence on oxygen then? The 2DG drug, like glucose, spreads through the body, reaches the virus-infected cells and prevents virus growth by stopping viral synthesis and destroys the protein's energy production. The drug also works on virus infection spread into lungs, which helps us to decrease patients' dependability on oxygen. The DRDO has said that 2DG drug can easily be produced in India and made available in plenty to citizens, as it is a generic molecule and analog of glucose. How will 2DG then be consumed? The anti-COVID drug 2DG has been developed in powder form and is ingested orally by dissolving it in water. According to the DRDO statement, after the clinical trials efficacy trends, the patients treated with 2DG showed faster symptomatic cure than standard of care on various endpoints. A higher proportion of patients treated with 2DG showed RT-PCR negative conversion in COVID patients.
Joining me now is Dr. Akshay Bhudraja, pulmonologist, Akash Healthcare Super Specialty Hospital, who's been involved in this entire 2DG research program. I appreciate your joining us, Dr. Bhudraja. There will be skepticism because in the past also we've heard of these wonder drugs. Please tell us, how confident are you that 2DG will actually reduce the dependence of coronavirus patients on oxygen?
So yes, we have tried several other drugs in the past, but this drug is a different molecule. We don't have any particular antiviral for this COVID disease till now. All we have right now is steroids, anticoagulants and antibiotics, and the role of remdesivir and favipiravir is still controversial. So we did a trial for this drug, particular 2DG, both for phase 2 and phase 3 trial, and its mechanism of action is very simple. Every virus needs glucose to survive and multiply. So this particular 2DG is an analog of glucose. Its properties are very similar to glucose, but not exactly glucose. So this 2DG molecule binds to the virus and it stops its growth as well as its multiplication. So basically, when the viral load is low, there is less amount of inflammation. And inflammation is the main culprit which causes progression of disease, COVID disease. So what we observed in our trial in those patients who had moderate to severe COVID disease, their viral load was decreased very significantly on day 3, day 4, day 5. Many of the patients whose COVID RT-PCR was CT value was around 10, 12. So they were in the early stage of the disease. They turned negative on day 3 to day 7 or day 8. Which rarely happens. We see patients whose COVID RT-PCR report comes positive even at day 14 or day 17. The second benefit which we noted was there was decreased requirement of oxygen, which is very important because oxygen is again a big issue right now. Thirdly, what we noted, the patients respond very great and very greatly with this particular molecule. Their symptoms decreased, may it be fever, may it be breathlessness or pneumonia progression. As well as the most important thing, the requirement of high dose.
Sorry. How many patients How many patients did you actually try this on before you claim this kind of success?
Okay, so in phase 2, we did trial on 20 patients at our center, and in phase 3, we did trial on around 30 patients. In total, the trial in phase 3 trial, 230 patients were taken, and they were compared to placebo. So the patients, half the patients were given the standard of care, which has already been going on, and half of the patients we gave 2DG additionally, and we compared those two particular groups. I know the number is very small, but the results were excellent. So in any trial, we assess two things. First is the safety, which is very important. Second is the efficacy. So in safety level, it was very safe. There were no adverse effects noted. Of course, we had some patients who developed gastritis, maybe loose stool on day 1 or day 2, but there were no major adverse effects. It didn't affect the kidney system or the liver, as compared to the other drugs which are
but when you are now manufacturing it on scale, when you are manufacturing it on scale, doctor, are you as confident as you were since you claim that you've done it on 30 and 20 patients in 2 sets of trials? You're now you're now manufacturing it on scale. Expectations will rise. I repeat, are you confident that it can work?
So I'm speaking about just about my center. So it was done in 220 patients, and those patients had moderate to severe COVID, and their inclusion criteria was very broad. So it was not done in children or pregnant ladies, but it was done in patients who required oxygen. And there was significant difference in patients who were given standard of care versus the patients who were given 2DG as an adjunct therapy.
Right.
So I am very confident enough because the safety profile is very good for this molecule.
Right. Okay. That's positive news. We hope, though, that unlike for false dawns in the past, this one actually is able to have that impact, because it could make a huge difference, also given the pricing is much less than other drugs that are today being put out in the market. Dr. Bhudraja, to you and your team, thank you very much, though, for joining me and giving us a sense as to what 2DG is all about. Let's turn to another positive story from there. The story of Tarun Kapala.